What's up, guys? Nostal-Gi-Oh here, back with another Master Duel video. It's been a while, but today we've got a new pack, the Adventure Pack with Floowandereeze cards as well, and a bunch of weird things like Magic Key and stuff that I have not even read yet. I'm not even gonna lie. But this is a pretty cool deck, pretty crazy deck. I personally hate this deck because it's just very not very fun to play against. But hey, it's a deck that you're gonna run into a lot. So I figured I'd do a deck profile. As you can see, I'm very close to having it done. I just really need like the shifters, and terraforming would be nice. But there's a lot of things that could change. This build could definitely change. But I think this build is a pretty good starting point. So let's just get right into it. Without further ado, let's talk about the Floowandereeze archetype deck. So starting it all off with 3 Rubina and 3 Eaglin. These are the main guys. 3 of each of these cards are insane. If you don't know what this deck does, basically just normal summon out a bunch of things to end on M-Pen statue with the trap card set. That's your end board that you're typically going to be going for, and it's pretty good. And if you have the field spell, it's just like way better. And yeah, this deck's pretty crazy. It's very, very strong in the TCG. It has been very strong in the TCG since it first came out, like a year ago at this point. Yeah, this deck's really, really crazy. You also get to play Triple Dimension Shifter. So yeah, it's pretty stupid. Anyway, 3 Rubina, 3 Eaglin, 2 Stree, and 2 Toucan, whatever you want to call it. This has just been a pretty standard ratio for the deck. You obviously play 3 of both the good starters, the Eaglin and Rubina, the SRs. These cards are really, really powerful. They just normal summon, search out another card, and then allow you to additional normal summon. So the typical play is going to be just like summon Rubina, search Eaglin, summon Eaglin, search M-Pen, normal summon M-Pen, and there you go. You did it. You did the most standard play. Now, there's also other things. The field spell gives you an additional normal summon, which allows you to set up the statue, which is pretty cool. And you have a lot of consistency in the deck with cards like Duality and Prosperity, which is pretty cool. So yeah, that is it for the base Floowandereeze cards. We also have the big Floowandereeze cards, which is 2 M-Pen. You don't really need 3. 1 Snao. This card is cuttable. You don't have to play this card. However, my one friend, shout out Dave, one of the best Floowandereeze players to walk the earth, he loves this card. He stands by this card. So I put it in, shout out Dave. But yeah, big thing about this card is it can attack over the Wandering Griffin Rider in defense position. It has 2800. Snao has 2900. It's a pretty big, little thing that you can do. It's pretty cool because this guy has 2700 and this guy has 2800, and this guy has 2700. This guy has 2900. So that's a thing. Then we also played the 1 Ryza. This card's insane. The Mega Monarch. This card is absolutely bonkers. I mean, this card is busted. It's broken. And then we played the 1 Avion. 5 tributes in total. I think the normal number that people really go for is 4. Snao is cuttable, like I said, but I think, this card's cool. It definitely has a good bit to offer for the deck. It also gives you an additional multitude of normal summons. You can conduct up to 3 normal summon sets this turn, which just really helps you go for game a lot of the time. So those cards are really powerful. Then the last main deck monster that isn't just D-Shifter is Statue of Stormwinds. Barrier Statue of the Stormwinds. This card is stupid. It says, neither player can special summon monsters except win monsters. This obviously does not inhibit this deck whatsoever. Maybe it, keeps you off of summoning access code on certain turns, but who cares? You almost never would do that anyway. This card is just absolutely stupid. This plus M-Pen plus Trap, it feels like an FTK most of the time unless your opponent has droplets. And it takes pretty much exactly droplets to out that board. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. The other monsters in the main deck is Triple Dimension Shifter. This card is absolutely insane. If you don't know what this card does, it says if you have no cards in your graveyard, you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard, and then until the end of the next turn, any cards into the graveyard is banished instead. So essentially, it's a hand trap floodgate. This card sucks. I hate this card. If you play against Prank Kids, it's an FTK. You win the game. There's a lot. Tri-Brigade. There's so many decks that cannot do anything under Shifter. It's insane. Also, this turns off a lot of hand traps. A lot of hand traps. I think Effect Veiler. Maybe not Effect Veiler. Wait, actually, does it stop Effect Veiler? It stops a lot. I hate the interface. Sometimes, man, come on. I just want to read Effect Veiler. You can send this card from your hand to the graveyard. It turns that off. It turns off so many things. This card is just absurd. Like, it's actually just an absurd card. I'm not even playing Max C in this deck. You don't have to. You can. In fact, it's probably good. Same with Ash. Like, you can play all those hand traps if you want to. But we went for the gas. I only went with Imperm because Imperm is incredible against every deck. You know, most of the decks are going to be playing against right now is like this deck, Sword Soul, and Brave decks. And Maxi is obviously good against all those decks except this deck, like the Mirror Match. But Imperm is good against all of them, including the Mirror Match. So we played triple Imperm. I don't know if that's actually right. Like, I don't know. You can definitely play Maxi and Ash, like cards like that. They're definitely good. But yeah, Dimension Shifter is the best hand trap that you can play in this deck. You definitely play 3. And then any other hand traps is like whatever you want to play, basically. Next for the spells, we played triple Duality and triple Prosperity. You can play Extrav if you want. Draw 2 is good. However, Prosperity, you can get into Prosperity with Duality. You can see Prosperity. Prosperity lets you see 6 cards when Extrav lets you see 2. I know you draw 2 when this only gives you 1. But Prosperity lets you really dig deep for your powerful cards. Like, you really need to see Map. You need to see Rabina or Eaglin. You need to see some kind of starter. If you already have all those pieces, you need to see Book of Moon to stop your opponent from Effect Veiler or Imperming your only play. Like, Prosperity is just really good because it digs really deep into your deck, and that's just the reason we're playing it. Next, we played 3 Map. The Field Spell, this card is insane. You need to see this card. You don't actually need to see it, but it gives you the secondary normal summon, which helps you play through things. It also lets you banish a card from your deck to chain block Ash Blossom, which is a very powerful thing that you can do with this deck. So just across the board, like, you want to max out on Map. We're also playing the 1 Terraforming to search the map so that you just have a higher chance of seeing Map. This card is very, very integral to the deck and the strategy, so we're maxing out on it. Next, we played 1 Floowandereeze and the Unexplored Winds. This card is really cool. It's very interesting. It's like a Monarch Stormforth. It allows you to tribute 1 card that your opponent controls when you when you summon a 2 tribute monster. So it's very good for outing, you know, specific things, weird things. In the TCG, it's really good against Mystic Mine. You don't have to worry about that in this game, thank God. Mystic Mine sucks. I hate that card. Nobody's ever liked that card. But yeah, this card is an out to a lot of weird things. I don't really have any good examples right now, but it's just an out to weird things. It's also just a very good card in general, allowing you to like +1 over a card that your opponent has to summon your 2 tribute monsters. It's pretty powerful. Next, we played 3 Book of Moon, and Book of Moon is really, it's a weird card to see in this deck. But it's really powerful for against Effect Veiler and Imperm. And I know those cards aren't incredibly played in Master Duel, as you typically, you know, don't have too many slots for going second cards. It's usually going to be Droplets, Max C, and Ash, right? Those are the cards that you're typically going to be seeing. But I think an influx of Imperm and Effect Veiler is warranted, with Floowandereeze and Sword Soul being the majority of the meta, right? Now we also have Brave coming into the game now, which means a lot of powerful combo decks are going to be coming into the game. But that also means that decks have to play more hand traps, because Brave essentially negates 1 hand trap. So you have to see multiple hand traps to beat these powerful Brave combo decks, unless it's Max C, because yay, Max C is fun. Max C is fun and fair. Anyway, I like triple Book of Moon. I think it's really good in this deck. We saw that already being a very standard practice in the TCG, and I think following into Master Duel, I think Book of Moon should definitely be considered a very powerful card in here. It also has the really powerful, like, additional thing where if you have Barrier Statue of Stormwinds on the field, a lot of decks, their only real out is normal summon a guy that's bigger than this guy and attack into it. And if you have Book of Moon, well, it's essentially negate their whole turn, which is pretty cool. Now, of course, you likely have already searched the trap, which would do the same thing in that scenario. But still, Book of Moon, I think, is a very valuable asset in this deck. And when we get, maybe we'll take it out when we get the quick play Advent, but we don't have that yet. And I think Book of Moon should definitely be considered. I haven't seen it in the online builds, like on Master Duel meta and stuff, but I think it should be considered. Next, we'll play 2 Called By. I think this card is just like a no-brainer. I know Maxi doesn't hurt this deck, but Called By feels really good against like Ash and Effect Veiler and stuff like that. Just adding more resilience to the deck, because the deck can be stopped by 1 negate sometimes, depending on the hand. It doesn't happen very frequently, but it helps. Next, we played triple Imperm. Like I said, you know, Sword Soul has already been the meta. I mean, it's been 75% of the meta for the last, since it came out, months, 2 months, right? So I think Imperm hitting that and the mirror match very effectively, definitely good. And when you're playing against these powerful Brave decks, having multitude of these cards like hand traps is very good to have. Also, Imperm's a really good card going second. If you top deck it as your 6th card, you can activate it and, you know, negate something on the field. It's really good against DPE. It's really good against, like, Griffin. It's really good against every end board, essentially. You know, your opponent goes standby phase, activate True King of all calamities. You go, oh, Imperm. There you go, right? So I just think Imperm is a very good blanket. I think it's blanket good against every deck right now. And yeah, so we're playing it. Next is just one of Dreaming Town. I don't think you need multiple. Some people do play 2. I think 1 is all you need. And then 1 Emptiness to round off the 40-card deck. Now, there are some other cards that you could play. Goldslark is a cool card. I think overall it doesn't really provide enough. If you see map, then you don't need to care about it literally at all. But there's definitely some scenarios that come up that Goldslark could be pretty solid. There's also some other cards. Feather Storm is an incredible trap card. It is an ultra rare, but I mean, it's basically True King of all calamities for a turn. Negate any monster effect that your opponent activates. It's stupid. It's a stupid card. And all it requires is a winged beast on your field. That's very doable, as almost every monster in the deck is a winged beast. So across the board, just some really good options that you can play as well. If you play Feather Storm, you can play Feather Duster as well, because if it's destroyed in the spell or trap zone, then you get to search Feather Duster, which is pretty cool. There's some other things that you could play in this deck for sure, but that's all the options that I can think of right now currently. And of course, you know, hand traps, any of that you want to play. You want to play Ash, go for it. You want to play Maxi, sure, right? And then last card is Di-Fi, Dimensional Fissure. That card I think is actually really solid in this deck, as it also does the cool thing. Really? I definitely spelled that right. Didn't I? Yeah, alright. Oh, it's at 3 in this format too, which is kind of cool, because it's at 1 in TCG. Yeah, that card is definitely cool. Now for the extra deck, a lot of the extra deck is not going to matter very frequently. However, it will come up sometimes. So a couple things that you just want to keep in mind is, first off, access code is a really solid, like, end win con. I don't really think this card comes up very frequently, but it will come up occasionally. And then Underworld Goddess is a very important card as well. There is going to be a couple situations where you can't really out a certain card, mostly like the Math Mech boss monster. Rango? Does this card out Rango? Maybe. I don't know. There's definitely a lot of things that this card can out. The AI card, Add Ignister card, the deck doesn't have an inherent out to that, so you have to Dreaming Town summon a lot of monsters on your opponent's turn, and then the next turn, Underworld Goddess eat their card. So just, this is a very imperative card in the extra deck. I think you should play this card as well. And then other than that, we have the Assembled Nightingale into Zeus combo. I think these cards are very powerful in this deck as well. Harpy Conductor comes up. I don't recall what it is, but my brother plays this deck in real TCG, and this card is a pretty important card in the extra deck. It has a couple certain matchups. It has a couple certain things. If you know in the comments, tell me. And then you want to have sends for Maximus. Dogmatica, Maximus. So cards like Natis are really, really good. We have Shurag that can search cards, which is good. You have Farragut that can draw a card and put one back. You also have the Cyber Dragon Nova into Makaba combo. That's another good thing to add into the deck. We have Downard to go on top of the Nightingale to add an additional material for Zeus. And then Relinquished Anima, because we have a lot of level 1 monsters. This card will come up. Maybe never, but it might come up. Excuse me. Recital Starling is also a very powerful card in the deck as well. That's about it. I think that's about it for the video. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Leave a like, comment, subscribe. And if you would change anything in this deck, if you think Max C should definitely be played, fair enough, right? So yeah, that's it for the video. Like, comment, subscribe, and goodbye.